can we share power in the communities to which we belong?
Greatest thing I would recommend across the communion is that we would become, if we do this, we will become a true communion of friendship instead of a communion of churches.
What does that mean? What does being friends mean?
It's throughout the Gospel of John. The greatest thing Jesus says at the Last Supper is, I have called you friends. So I have not called you servants, I have not called you sons and daughters, I have not called you worshipers, I've called you friends. What does it mean to be friends with each other and God? And this actually goes to the serious threat that Indaba forces upon the institution of the church, is because the Indaba process necessarily flattens hierarchy. And so the lay people will adjust to that. So how is the very first decision that the leaders, I won't say the hierarchy, the leaders of the church, how will that go? Will they do it in the old hierarchical method, in which case either they or the process will be rejected and we'll be back to this? Or will they adjust to what it means to be a leader in friendship as opposed to a captain in battle?
As you note, a woman from one of our Manhattan parishes who had come back from an Indaba weekend that included one of our poorer churches in the Bronx and another outlying parish, had told me about her remarkable experience at Indaba, gone away and then come back and said, and you know, Bishop, this has consequences for you. And I laughed and I said, tell me what those are. She said, if you go to close one of those small churches, you need to know there are friends now. And I said, that was the whole point from the beginning. But what we've created is a community of people representing about a third of our diocese who are now deeply invested in the lives and ministries and contexts, culturally and geographically, economically, racially, and ethnically. People who are very different than they are live lives very different than they do in places that are strange to them. And what that means now, and as I was told by this woman, if we need to make hard decisions about some of our ministries in the diocese, she said, we're invested in it, we're going to be there, we're going to hold your feet to the fire, we're going to be in that conversation with you, which is all I ever wanted. Another way of saying that is we're developing the shared understanding of our common life. Don't know yet. I have said, and the convention has heard me, that we are going to change the culture of the Diocese of New York. I have observed that it takes 11 miles to turn around an ocean liner, and that the work of cultural change will occupy my whole episcopate and that of my successor, most likely. So when we look at issues of power and hierarchy, I know that these are realities in the life of the church. I hope that as we come through Indaba, that my participation in this with the people of my diocese will be a way for us to redefine to some degree, or at least reimagine and experience in a new way what power, yes, but let's say authority and shared authority can mean among us. So that one of the things that's clearly come out of this first Indaba experience is that people in the diocese who in fact have felt powerless have found some empowerment and some shared life with people that they would have viewed as having occupied the seats of power across the diocese. So I'm not going to say that it's a leveling, but what I will say is that there are conversations happening across the power structure that are already changing the way that we would talk about that and think about that, and then potentially change the way that we experience and live with power going forward.
Who are the people whose voices are not being heard in your communities?
In building parish life and building up the life of the people of God in this place, and we're not a particularly radicalised community, so Indaba has been most important at making people realise that they are part of the struggle and the responsibilities of their brothers and sisters, whether that be, the Bishop of Derby, or whether that be people excluded from their churches because of who they are in other parts of the world. And I do think Indaba is of immense value. And I can only give the example of in Indaba groups here, a granny in her 70s standing up and talking about the experience of realising what it means to be in your 20s and to be gay and to be excluded from your church community. And the power of that when in fact you're not in your 20s, you're not gay, and you've never been excluded from your church community. So in some ways, Indaba is most powerful for the people who feel they don't have very much to lose and perhaps don't have very much control.
Loving God, who in Jesus showed us power marked by humility and service, sustain and uphold us in and through your strength as we walk the difficult path of following Jesus' example. Amen.